the problem, as I see it, is that NICE produces technology appraisal guidance, which PCTs have to fund within 3 months. NICE's remit does not look at affordability, it looks at cost effectiveness. And commissioners have little input into the process when they're expected to actually fund what comes out of it. There has been some work done on that, and Commissioning Support Appraisal Service has been working for just about a year now, working with NICE on this. But the future landscape is going to change with PCTs disappearing and commissioning consortia, GP consortia, developing. As GP consortia come into existence, where NICE has found it difficult to engage with 152 PCTs, it's going to find it much more difficult to engage with however many consortia come into existence, and that problem is only going to get multiplied. And that comes with the backdrop of a tough financial climate where savings are required, where affordability does need to be looked at. One of the key problems is that NICE's agenda is set by political priorities, and that needs to shift towards clinical priorities and clinical need, where guidance would be most welcomed, would have the greatest impact, would be most required. With that in mind, as GP consortia come into existence, it would be good to have an interface between GP consortia and NICE, so that relevant guidance can be produced, which is clinician-led rather than politician-led, and which will have a substantial impact on how we practice efficient healthcare delivery. So that's the idea.
Have you looked at, I'm not sure I've got the idea completely, but have you looked at what sort of investment that will take?
Yes,
and what return you're looking in terms of it working?
The sort of investment that it will take, NICE's work program has about 70 topics in a year at full capacity, and they're working close to full capacity at the moment. Looking at 30 draft scopes that NICE comes up with initially in the process, 15 evidence reviews following on from those draft scopes, and 15 appraisal consultations coming out of that. That costs somewhere around £300,000. That is just under half of NICE's output in a year. Going up to the full output, the cost is not going to double, but it is going to increase somewhat from £300,000. So that's the current outlay that is used. In terms of what is achieved for that money, of the first 176 technology appraisal guidance documents that NICE produced, there was no input from commissioners. 7 appeals came from commissioners to these decisions from NICE. First of all, the number of appeals should go down with the involvement of commissioners earlier on in the process. And secondly, guidance would be more implementable in terms of defining the population for whom the technology is appropriate, and defining when it should be started, when it should be stopped. So having clear criteria would make it more implementable. So that would be a worthwhile outcome.
I mean, I think it's an interesting new development that's created by the prospective changes to the health service. I would ask though, as we are representing public health, to what extent you feel that the general primary care and even the secondary care can represent the need for a shift to improving the public health evidence through NICE?
Primary care and secondary care do need to be involved, and there is going to be a certain element of training and awareness raising in the need to be involved, particularly as new commissioners come into the picture, and the need to be involved in developing appraisal guidance, so that what is achieved at the end of the day is implementable and is uniformly interpreted by all. So there does need to be some element of training and awareness raising.
Who who would pay for this? Who are the customers, do you think?
The customers will be all the commissioners interfacing with NICE.
It's trying to get 450 people to pay something is a pain in the neck. I can tell you that. Trying to get 152 people to pay for something, because if one of them objects, you know, and then there are problems. So, could you think of where you might get what would be the business model for it? How would you do it? You want your own salary and 2 other people working. So a subscription service is possible, but I don't think we've ever really. The only way it worked, you see, for the critical appraisal service was that Sophia Christie pulled a fast one and get every PCT to commit 2,000, but more PCTs I met never knew she'd done it. You know, 2,000 too small, but she'd sort of taken it away from them, and they'd agreed in principle. So, I mean, the CSES runs in that way, but it was requires sleight of hand to do it.
And perhaps that's perhaps that sleight of hand can be performed again through the National Commissioning Board.
Yeah, my feeling is, in some ways, of course, it's good working with GPs, because it's the GPs I'm meeting who are up for it, and we're trying at the moment to find 1,000 GPs who are up for it out of the 30,000. Some of them are very shrewd business people, so it may be easier to deal, fun enough, with 452 rather than 152, because you're dealing not with chief executives of PCTs who are not used to running enterprises, but with GPs who are, there are some very shrewd and tough people out there. So it might be possible to do it by subscription method, but you'd have to find some friendly agent, you know, one GP who was also chief executive of a consortium who made this her mission, my guess would be.
Yes, and that is where I would look for your support. In meeting GPs who will be active in setting up consortia, who will be interested in this, interfacing with NICE, with Department of Health, so getting the support, that would be my what I would need.
Well, what are the how many GP trade organisations have you identified? I mean, what are the how would you approach customers?
Approach customers with the model of CSAS.
No, but I mean, where are you going to get the telephone numbers? The addresses, the names.
I was hoping that you'll be able to point me in the direction of GPs who are setting up consortia and who are interested in setting up consortia and who want to be.
Yeah, but there are national agencies already there. What sort of agencies would you approach? Do you know any of them? Royal College of GPs, for example, but there are others, like the National Association of Primary Care, or so often you're in trying to do just dealing with. My experience has been, I don't know what yours has been, that a big contract, a small contract is about as much work as a big contract. You know, so if you're negotiating for £5,000 times 100 times, it's the negotiation for £400,000 isn't much different from the negotiation for, is it? It's, so you're. Anyway, these are problems which other people have solved.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.